All right, everyone, welcome to today's Career Chat. We're so excited to have Erin Winfrey and Macy Johnson with BOK Financial joining us to talk to us a little bit about leadership and the book Multipliers. And so I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Feel free, everyone who's on the call, if you have questions, you can use the chat. You can also unmute and chat as well and ask your questions. So it's not a webinar format, it's definitely a meeting. So we want to keep it informal, and also encourage participation. So with that, Erin, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. And it's nice to be with you all today. Thank you for having us and taking this time to talk with us about not only our program, but a topic that we really believe very strongly in, which is leadership. So, I have been with the bank around a year and a half at this point. I'm the university recruiter. So my background has been in college athletics. I worked in college football with OSU and then coached at a Division II. And then after I got out of football, I got into tech recruiting. I worked for a staffing agency in the Tulsa area before joining the bank. So really enjoyed my time at the bank. Clearly recruiting has been a theme all throughout my career. So I really enjoyed it. And so happy to be here with Macy, who brought me into the bank. So I'll let her introduce herself.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Really glad to be here and to give you guys an update today and talk through the book Multipliers. So I've been at the bank close to 6 years now, and a lot of the work I've been doing has been involved in our accelerated career track programs to some degree. I started as the university recruiter, and so I spent some time on TU, definitely the TU campus, for 2 or 3 years, and then moved into a program lead role. And now my job is really more holistic at some of the learning programs we have organization-wide. So that does still include our ACT programs, our internship programs, but also includes sales training for the entire organization. So I have a team that leads sales training to all producers or bankers on the front line, and then the ACT program, which is a group of 3 that are focused on our internship and associates, which includes Erin's group in university recruiting. So I've had a great 6 or so years at the bank and have always been involved at TU. Lena, we've worked together for a long time, and I saw Amy hop on as well. And so just excited to give you guys, a little bit of a deeper look into some of the things we explore during our internship. Specifically, the book today we'll talk about is Multipliers, which we had all of our interns read this year. So I'm going to let Erin kick it off. We'll go a little bit back and forth. Again, feel free to use the chat. Erin and I have become semi-pros at all of this. I'm sure all of us have. So I think we can tackle this as a team for sure today.
Absolutely. So thanks. So this book, the idea for reading this book and its importance really came from a group of leaders and leadership development that we have at the bank. So we have a group called E1 Leadership, and I watched them. They work on a project for, I would say, probably 10 months, tackling a different problem in the bank. And it's really meant to stretch them, help them work in cross-collaboration between markets and lines of business. And so at the end of this, when they're getting their awards, this most recent cohort, they talked about things that were most impactful to them. And about 75% that multipliers and the concepts in multipliers were really impactful. And so after it wrapped up, I went to us facilitators and asked them, this book, and tell me a little bit about it. And they happened to have an extra copy, and so they shared it with me. And so the premise, I'll get this started. There we go. So the premise, first of all, the book was written by Liz Wiseman. So she spent 17 years as the global executive for talent and organizational development at Oracle. So she's working with leaders in different countries, tackling all kinds of complex problems and issues. And so what she learned in sitting with these meetings, she would sit in meetings with some of the same people, but these meetings would be ran by different leaders. And so what she found was there were people who would be incredibly engaged and be able to, do some of their best work in a meeting that she'd be with them in. And then later, she would see them and, let me see. Oh, I'm sorry. It looks like you're.
No worries. Just wanted to let you know that's the screen we were seeing.
Got it. Is that better?
Here we go.
Perfect. Sorry about that, guys. And so what she found is those same people who are incredibly engaged and really driving results in some areas would sit in other meetings and be very quiet and not as apt to offer up ideas and really didn't do their best work for these people. And so it made her really think, why is this happening? Why are these people so engaged in some areas and seem to be not so much in others? And what she found was it was really the leaders that these people reported to in these different areas that could either drive engagement or diminish. And so she called these leaders multipliers. There we go. And so thought is here that there are two types of leaders. Multipliers, people who can see talent, use it, and really develop it. And people really thrive under these leaders. And then there are some that are diminishers, leaders who seem to kind of shut down the brilliance and the smarts of their teammates or those that they lead. And the thing to note here is that the diminishers, they rarely happen on purpose, is rarely intentional. And we'll get to that a little bit later, something kind of known as accidental diminishers. And so I want to turn it over to Macy. She's going to have kind of an exercise for us to work through really quickly.
Yeah, thanks. And I will tell you from reading this for a few years now and always going back to it, all of us have diminishers. So it's not a sacred club that only naughty people go to. It's really all of us. So we'll get into that a little bit later too. So what I want to ask everyone to do right now, whether you're a student or not, is to think about the last group project that you worked on, whether that was in your current job or a project that you guys worked on over the summer for an internship or class project, whatever the case may be. And just take a notepad, or if you've got notes open on your computer, feel free to type here for the next about 30 seconds and write down some characteristics of you or your teammates on that call. So think about the group you were in, the dynamics you had. One of the questions we always ask during interviews or talk about is, the role that people take in projects. And so we hear a lot of these kind of characteristics or personalities that people have. So if you'll take just the next 30 seconds, let's think about some of those characteristics and just jot them down for me. Okay. So if you will, put just a few of them down in the chat. What are just some characteristics that you guys thought about? If you'll just jot those down in the chat, would love to be able to read some of those before we move forward. Yeah, energetic, that's good. Yeah, Steve, that's a really good point about taking a leadership role even without thinking about it. We'll get into that a little bit as well. Yeah, problem solver, communicative, good. So we know on the call, the people that are on here are the ones that are the achievers, probably leading the projects, just with the characteristics listed today. One of the ones I can vividly remember from college and working on is the procrastinator. If anyone's been on a team with one of those before, maybe the coincidental delegator. that maybe ends up just having the high level task of delegating, but that's their whole job is the delegation, right? So we've all seen these type of areas. I love that collaboration's on here a lot. Tawny, problem solver is a great one. We'll get in a little bit to what that looks like in both a multiplier standpoint and a diminisher standpoint. So these are great characteristics. I want you throughout this presentation to keep those in your mind. So think about some of those characteristics, whether that you've played or your teammates have played, and think about where you show up from either a multiplier standpoint or an accidental diminisher standpoint. So Erin, I'll have you advance to the next slide. We're going to talk through some multipliers first. Okay, so these are the things that really help us when we think about leadership and development and growth opportunities for employees at the bank. But even more than that, just in generalities, I think important pieces of what people can learn and understand about how they show up in their career. So the definition of a multiplier, I know Erin talked about a little bit earlier, but it's really focusing on the person that you are attracts people around you and pushes them to do more, be more, act in a different way. A growth mindset, if you guys have heard about the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset, it really is that toward state, moving state. And these are a few today we wanted to highlight of multipliers and how you can show up in a room, hopefully how you all have shown up in a room, but just think about maybe where your default goes. So the first one is the talent magnet. And this is the person that everyone wants to work with. If you think about, maybe in a group project, your professor says pick teams, and it's the first person that gets the eyes of, okay, we've got to be on a team together here. These are the people that are really going to focus on how can I make someone else better? How can I bring somebody out? How can I hold my weight in a group project, but also help carry other people's till the end? It feels very natural and smooth with the talent magnet. One of the things I'm going to talk through, and especially this multipliers piece, is just how our organization focuses on these, specifically these three multipliers, but especially in our ACT programs. So with the talent magnet, piece of it, we just finished up our internship last week. We had 25 interns join us virtually for the summer. And one of the things we really found is that in the group projects and with a lot of the Battle of the Interns projects we had going on, we had them do a COVID individual project. We had a ton of talent magnets in our internship program that could really just bring out the best in the other interns, which made us as management, really excited and willing and capable to be able to help them along the way. The debate maker is a really interesting one. And I want to talk about it in the multiplier standpoint. And just so you know, each multiplier has that kind of accidental diminisher where you can teeter that line and go a little bit too far. And so, some of these might seem like they could be diminishers, and we'll talk a little bit through those, but really think about them as we're going through these in a positive mindset, because that's really the intent of the multipliers here. So the debate maker is someone that can really focus on looking at something thoroughly and making the best decision for the organization or for the group project, really in an unbiased way, if you will. So it's looking at all sides of the spectrum. One of my favorite quotes that's from my grandpa, actually, I've got on a note in my office, is one of the best things you can do is learn to disagree agreeably. And that's the debate maker, right? It's that you get more done with more brains in the room and more opinions and thoughts to where you can walk out of the room regardless of the outcome, knowing that it was the best decision made for the group, but even more than that, that you're walking out still friends and respectful of your coworkers. And so the debate maker is super important. My team specifically, we all come from very different backgrounds. We've got a team of 8 of us that are focused on certain aspects of the organization, and there's times where we don't always agree on the best way to move forward. But what we found is the best way to come together is on a WebEx or on a Zoom call, and really figure out what makes sense, and doing that without personal feelings getting involved. So this is sometimes a tricky one, but a very important one, especially as you continue to develop throughout your career. The last one is the investor. And this is super important, especially as you start to move up into new jobs and internships in different areas. It's really easy early in your career to want to take credit for everything you've done. And I'll say it again because I certainly felt it in my first few years at the organization. But what I had a mentor once tell me, the best thing you can do is give the credit to your boss and those that helped you, and you'll get noticed along the way. And I find that to be extremely accurate. One of the things that is important about the investor is that when you see someone doing a good job or doing something for someone else that wasn't asked or in the job description, it's that you're able to highlight that and give someone else praise without having some backstory of it tying back to you. And that can be really tough, especially beginning of your career. You're trying to prove yourself, you're building credibility, you want people to know the work that you've been doing. But from experience and from doing it in both a multiplier and diminisher way myself, the multiplier way of really doing this in a genuine and authentic realm sets you up for success down the road. And what we found is when you pair that investor with the talent magnet, you become organically noticed along the way as well, because you've been so invested in what the organization is doing and what individuals are doing, and people are noticing it because people around you are developing and engaged in doing better. So I want to talk through those three multipliers. I'm going to hand it back over to Aaron to talk through some of the diminishers, but would ask you guys to just do a quick pause and think about which one of these three do you go to most organically? So what comes most natural to you? And if you'll just type in the chat which one feels most innate, we'd love to hear from you before we move on.
Macy, do you mean which one do we gravitate toward, or which one do we emulate?
Emulate. Yeah,
Okay.
Emulate. Good question. Awesome. Great answers coming in. Good. Well, so what we'll do, some of these, it looks like it's pretty even across the board. Aaron's going to talk through some of the accidental diminishers, some that pair specifically with these, but even more than that, some of this that we don't even realize we're doing. So Aaron, go ahead and take it away, and we'll go to the next piece of this.
Cool. There we go. Yeah, I mean, as Macy said, we we have the multiplier effect of it, but we also have the diminishing side of it. And these are things we don't always do intentionally. They really can come from the most noble intentions, is what Liz says. These people have great ideas, and I've been guilty of most of these. I just want to say that from the beginning. I picked these because I found myself doing them, not always professionally, sometimes in my personal life too. And that's why I feel like this book is really impactful, because you'll start to examine your personal life and your personal relationships, and how often you do things like this too. So the idea guy, the person that's always got a new idea, once a week. I think that there's times that I've come to Macy with a new idea and she never stifles me, but I have to kind of check myself, like, I just brought her a new idea last week. Like, maybe we should run on the one that I just brought before, and let's see this one to completion first. It's not a bad idea to have ideas all the time. I think it's a really good thing, but kind of knowing what the plan of attack is, and we'll get into that. The perfectionist. I forgot who said this, but I think I said perfection is the enemy of getting things done. I probably butchered that quote, but I've seen that. As a college student, I definitely procrastinated and looked at it as, well, I want this to be really perfect, which really I didn't want to tackle it. The rescuer, someone who comes in and says, I see you're struggling here. Let me save you. Let me help you. Let me help you with that. And they just take it off your hands. And they're like, well, I just had a question about it. And something turned from being a question to now they're just going to take it over for you. And again, they can do that with the best of intentions, because they may be stronger in that subject matter. And maybe you're stronger in the subject matter. And so you say, hey, let me take this over for you. I've got it. Don't worry about it. There's really not an opportunity for them to grow there. And then the optimist. You know, the first note says, guys, we can do this. This will be no problem. It's a piece of cake. We've got it. Without thinking that sometimes, you know, this is really hard. Why don't you chill out on the optimism? This is really hard. And so we'll kind of get into, I already did that a little bit. The idea guy, you know, their intention is to, you know, stimulate other people's ideas. But they often overwhelm people with new ideas. You inundate people with new ideas. And like I said, they haven't really finished the first one. And so where it comes from good intentions, the outcome is really, you know, teammates can find it hard to keep up with all the new ideas. They get overwhelmed. They don't know which is important, which is the most important, right? The rescuer really wants to make sure that people are successful and to protect their reputation. They don't want anyone to look bad. But a lot of times people just become dependent on that person. They reach out for them. Hey, will you read this? Hey, is this okay to say? Or, you know, I'm not sure if I can do this. How can you help me? And then they end up doing it all. The perfectionist, you know, really want to help people produce incredible work. And sometimes those people can feel criticized. You may say, hey, I don't really love the way this reads. And it really depends on how you say that. Sometimes my teammates help me a lot before I communicate out to folks. And I don't ever feel like they're out of bounds or that they're criticizing me. But that also doesn't feel like it's perfect all the time. You know, it's still authentic to who you are and who we are. And then the optimist, you know, the intention is to really create, like I said, that we can do this and create this optimism. But people really wonder if you appreciate the struggle for what you accomplish. Because some things, some tasks are complex and they're a little harder. And while it's important to maintain a positive attitude, I think it's also important to acknowledge, yeah, what we're about to do is really hard, but I have a lot of belief in this team and what we can accomplish. And so those are kind of accidental diminishers is what they're called in her book. And I think it's important to note that these are really accidental things. No one's out to get you or to make you look bad. And we don't intend to do these things to other people. Macy's going to talk about some things, ways to make these a little more positive.
You bet. So one of the things, just before we move on, I think it's important to think about is the dichotomy between some of these and where that line can skew again to a multiplier. So when you think about the rescuer, turning the rescuer into the talent magnet, which sometimes means letting people fail or being more open to asking questions on how they would do it and coaching them through the next step versus telling them the next step or what you would do. We find that the rescuer and the talent magnet pair really well together when you think about that teeter line of where you can come in and quote, save the day. The idea truly being around the people that surround you is really where good work gets done. And that being the person that is getting stops in their office every 5 minutes is not something to brag about. It's actually more of an issue because then you're not using a quality of time that you have in your day to get something done. So I'm going to talk through each of these, but wanted to make that comparison, and you'll see through some of these as well where that falls in, but specifically that rescuer and talent magnet pair well together. So the idea guy is probably where I am most guilty. We have got a program that we use at the bank called Emergenetics, which really talks to you about where your brain works first or goes for first when you think about what you like to do. And so there's 4 quadrants of it. There's conceptual, which is ideation and a little bit of the pie in the sky. There's analytics, there's structure, and then there's a social piece. And I'm over 40% conceptual. So I feel right at home as the idea guy, right? That's my go-to. And even more than that, my next second biggest is analytics. And so then it kind of gets in my brain, right, when I'm in this diminisher phase of not only do I have the idea, but I know it's going to work because I've looked at the data and I know exactly how it's going to happen. And so it can get frustrating to other people when I come to the table with an idea, because I know exactly beforehand that it's going to be the best idea I have. So I've really had to practice this one, and hopefully Aaron can attest to some of this. But one of the things that I think is really important, again, is that coaching mentality. Whether you are a brand new intern, or you're in your first job, or you're in your 10th job, try, before you get around a table and there's a brainstorming meeting, count however many people are at the table. Say there's 5. Let 3 people have an idea before you do. And I promise you, because I've tried it, almost always one of your ideas will be said before you say it. And so it helps humble you and think about exactly where you think you have the greatest idea. That isn't always the case. Other people can have great ideas. So it helps give you some of that rationality, that other people can think in that manner. But even more than that, it gives others the opportunity to really showcase where their brain goes and how we can leverage that all at the table. So the idea guy is a tough one, but a good way to do it is, again, stop and ask yourself, is there another person that can do this right now? Or even physically, even if it's painful, to just zip the lip for a few more minutes while someone else gets a chance to present an idea, can be super helpful. The next is the rescuer. One of the main things that we've focused on within the rescuers is really that there isn't always a problem to solve. You don't always have to be the person to go in and send the parachute. I think it's important for all employees or college grads to be able to try and fly on their own. And so one of the issues of the rescuer, again, is that coaching mentality of asking questions before you find the problem. And this can be very difficult. When you've got someone in your team project that just isn't getting it or doesn't understand a certain area, one of the main things that I've found super helpful and beneficial is to have them go bounce ideas off of 1 or 2 more people and then come back to you. So not only does that, take the alleviation off of you to be the rescuer, but it also means that they can work in a peer group to come up with some solutions beforehand where you don't have to come in and save the day. They're actually saving their own day, which is a super important piece of development, especially in our world. And for our interns and associates, but even more than that, just to help somebody grow and learn in a career and a different opportunity. The perfectionist, I grew up with 2 sisters that are the perfectionist. So on the opposite side, I have felt the pressure of the perfectionist. And one of the things I found really helpful, and both my sisters have actually read this book, so we've talked a lot about kind of where it fits in, but we've always talked about the expectations that people have for themselves versus the expectations that others have for them. And one of the things that we've started to do to some degree is write down what you have to get done, just your normal to-do list. What are the things you have to get done? And then next to it, put a star by if someone else told you to do it, someone else gave you a timeline to do it, or you're feeling pressure from your organization or your coach or your boss or whatever to get it done. And more often than not, you will see that you don't have a star by what's on your to-do list because you're putting the pressure on yourself to get it done. And so it's just a good exercise to use, especially as we go through, and you talked about priorities. Prioritization is a big part of what we work on with our associates and interns. It's always tough for a perfectionist because everything's supposed to get done exactly how they want it, when they want it. And that's just not how work works. There's no guidebook, there's no syllabus. You walk in and someone says, none of us know how to do this. Can you figure it out? That doesn't always sit well for a perfectionist. So a good exercise, just next time you take a look at your to-do list and what you have to do, think about where the pressure is coming from to get it done. And I promise you it'll help alleviate and prioritize what comes next and what you're supposed to get done. And then finally, the optimist. Aaron and I both work for an optimist. So my manager, Chrissy Medic, is the biggest optimist I know. And she teaches to the Multipliers book, and she'll admit to it. One of the things that she really talks about is that it helps to bounce information off of other people that aren't, it's not that they're not optimists, but they really like data and numbers to back any decision that's made. And so myself and my peer, Jed Dunn, we both work for Chrissy, and we both are always going to dive into the data before we make decisions or before there's a conversation on can we do it or can't we. And so before Chrissy makes any big decisions, she always will come to Jed and I and just say, hey, gut check me here. Make sure, do we have the data and the numbers and the people to back this up? Because when an optimist starts going and there's an idea and it might work, you might have a plan of action before you walk out of a room of exactly how it's going to happen. And you're thinking in your mind, there's no earthly way we can get this done. So think about that to some degree, especially as we all head into, specifically for you guys back on campus or virtual or whatever the case may be. There are those that are going to be those optimists and have certain areas of, yeah, we'll figure it out. That's a typical optimist saying, we'll figure it out. And somehow it just gets done. And so really taking a step back to think about, okay, if I'm saying we're going to get it done, I really need to define how are we going to get it done. And that helps the optimist stay a little bit more grounded and not get too pie in the sky really quickly, which can happen to an optimist very fast, especially when it's an idea that they're super excited about. So some action items, Steve, I know you had put in the chat. The recognition that we all do it is extremely important. That's something that's beneficial to everyone, especially as you're starting to move into some of you, maybe second, third, fourth year in college. But even for us that have been in the field for a long time, these are always humble reminders to see where you show up in these and how it impacts where you're moving forward. I'd encourage you, I put the Amazon link to the book in the chat. There's more diminishers, if you can imagine. We just picked a few to talk through today. There's more multipliers. And so the book really gives you an opportunity to dive in and understand where it comes from. And having gone through the program Aaron was talking about, E1, I went through in 2018, so about 2 years ago. The Multipliers book at that point came with a little squishy ball or whatever it was, and each side of it had an accidental diminisher on it. And so what I used to do back when I was in my office, I'd look at every day and kind of put one that I felt like I was emulating for the day, and try as hard as I can, even if I can't fix all of my diminishers in one day, just try one, just try one. And I promise over time, the habit and the practice picks up where you start to realize when you're doing it and pause and go, okay, guys, I'm so sorry. I know I was just the idea guy for the last 20 minutes, but I'm going to shut it down. And I want to hear from you all what you're looking at and what you think could work. So make sure that that's a big part of what you're doing, especially as you're continuing in education and on team projects. We're all facing new challenges right now, which is exactly when diminishers will come out. When you're experiencing change or something new is the easiest time frame to unfortunately fall back into some of these habits. And so really staying humbled and strong in where you feel like you can become a multiplier is super important. Okay. So the last thing I just want to recap with, and then I'll pass it back over to Aaron, is just a few things to remember as I was wrapping up. So we all set out to tackle work with our best intentions. And I know Aaron's next slide is going to speak specifically to that, but it's our team motto, not just my group, but talent and organizational development as a whole. There's about 10 to 15 of us on that team. And this has been our team motto for years and years, and you'll hear it across the board. But super important is really knowing that everyone is set out to work with the best intentions. No one is waking up on a Wednesday morning hoping to make somebody's day miserable. So we all are trying to do our best in that facet. Before acting, talk about how it may come across to teammates that you may lead, not even in a leadership role, but even just in any project that you're in. It's really easy to have opinions, ideas, thoughts, and especially in a brainstorming session or a planning session, when it feels like everyone can have their word, think about your words before you move into the action phase of it. And then lastly, which is so true, trying to make others better through empowerment and trust. I think trust is certainly one of the top things that you can have with a teammate, is knowing that you've got their back and they have yours. And a lot of things will fall into place, I can promise you, if you have trust between your team. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's not an easy thing to build, but when it's there, your team gets much stronger. And in fact, the best thing about that is your team can call you out for some of your diminishers. Aaron and I have kind of chuckled back and forth about things that we've pointed out. It's because we can say it to each other and say, listen, we're going way too high level right now. We got to back off this optimism thing and think about, how are we actually going to visit a campus or present, or do we need to have something in our back pocket? And so being able to empower others and trust others, even sometimes when it's going to be harsher feedback, it's exactly what you need to learn and know moving back into the other area. So with that, Aaron, our final slide, and one of our favorite sayings here is to always assume positive intent. And I can't speak truer words for our team and other areas. We're all going to have bad days and different elements, but especially when we're able to be multipliers and have this cap on all the time, I promise you it'll make for better outcomes in your projects. But even more than that, better friends at work and people that you're going to be spending 40+ hours of your time with. So I'm so glad that Aaron and I got to tag team this today. We both are in our Bartlesville Bruin blue for our hometown, and that wasn't even planned. But we're just so grateful to TU, Leonel, and the rest of the team here, Tawny and Amy, for always sticking with us and giving us these opportunities. We love to come visit the TU campus, and this year we love to do this as well. So with that, I'll pass it back over to Aaron. I know we have a few more things before we wrap up, and we'll take any questions or comments in the chat as well.
Yeah. So I really just wanted to talk a little bit more about our team motto. This is something that I heard when I joined the bank and when I joined this team. And it stuck with me. It's something that has really helped me over the last year and really in and out of my job. Really remembering to assume positive intent when people say things. Unless they're just out and out nasty, I don't think that's going to be positive. But if someone kind of undercuts you or throws an idea out there that maybe was yours and you didn't, and didn't necessarily give you the credit you felt like you deserved, I don't think they were trying to hurt you. Just think about those things, assuming positive intent really goes a long way for making sure that you have stronger teammates, right? Teammate relationships, and just stronger teams in general. And so, as Macy mentioned, talent organization is a team that we sit on, and the ACT program and our internships fall underneath that. And so we just wrapped up our internship. We had a virtual internship of 25 folks, and I don't think it could have gone any better. And that came a lot from their feedback. They felt like it was engaging, and they got an opportunity to really learn more about the bank, stretch themselves a little bit, and understand if this is a career for them or not. And I think that's the goal of any internship, is to really get your feet wet in the work and really understand, is this something you want to do, at least for the beginning of your career, right? And so we have an internship that focuses on commercial banking and wealth management. We also have more data-driven positions as well as IT. The consumer data internship can roll into a quantitative analytics associate position. It's kind of unique. It's the only position like this at the bank where we have the situation where you can work concurrently. So you could, if it's for grad students, so if you're in your first year of grad school or entering your second year, you could apply for this position to work part-time with us, and that could be in modeling risk, just quantitative analytics projects, doing some stress testing and things like that. You'll work 20 to 25 hours a week, good pay during that time, and some pretty competitive compensation outside of that. The associate program is for new graduates. As you guys come into the fall, if you're a senior or you're a second year grad student, if you're interested in learning more about our rotational program, we have that. So it's 18 months, and that's in commercial banking again, wealth management, or IT. You get an opportunity to get credit training on the commercial banking side, and then rotate through different specialty lines within those lines of business. So for commercial, you can rotate through commercial real estate, energy banking, healthcare banking, heavy machinery, just some commercial and industrial. I guess clients. Sorry, that's more of our C&I specialty line. And then wealth management, we have institutional wealth, we have a private bank, we have kind of our own equity research arm within Kavanaugh Hill. And so we have really competitive opportunities to give you guys an opportunity to see the bank, see the financial services industry, and really get an opportunity to look at our company culture. And so as we go into the fall and career fair season starts, I'm sure that we'll make time to come back, probably via Zoom, and talk with you guys about all those opportunities. Applications will open at the beginning of September, and then we'll probably begin to have those interviews towards the end of September, beginning of October, just to give you guys kind of a timeline for how all that works. And everyone starts, the internship will start the last week of May and runs through the first week of August. It's a 10-week internship. And then, as I said, the rotational program starts in July. Everyone goes to training in Tulsa from July to early and mid-December. And then you'll do rotations in your market over the course of the next year. So our 2021 associates will actually start their job and their group in January of 2023. So we'll have to do a little bit of planning. But with that, I'd like to open up any questions. If you have any questions about the ACT program or our internship or the quantitative analytics program, associate program, reach out to me. Give me a call, shoot me an email, connect with me on LinkedIn. I think it's really beneficial for you all that we're in your backyard. So not a lot of moving required. And so I think that's a great opportunity for you all. So with that, I'd like to open it up for any questions.
So we have a few questions coming in the chat. What year do you guys hire? So I think they possibly for internships, like, is there a certain level that you look for, sophomore, junior, that kind of thing?
So we're looking for juniors or first-year grad students for the internship program, and then seniors and second-year grad students for the associate program. If you're going to be an intern, we ask that you be over 12 months away from graduation. That's kind of the easiest way for us to look at it. And then within 12 months of graduation, so you'd be able to start the program full-time next July if you wanted to be an associate.
Good question. We always do talk to sophomores. I thought it important to add here, you know, we always want to be talking to people that have an interest in banking. And so whether that's a coffee with us over the summer or something like this, or when we're on campus, always have an opportunity to come see us in certain aspects. Know that we're always open to seeing applications from the younger students as well. We've actually had a lot of sophomores that we've talked to as sophomores come back, intern for us, and then have a job with us in full time. That happens more often than not. So I hope that doesn't shy anybody away from reaching out to Aaron or myself.
Garrett, go
That's
ahead.
some very impressive sophomores.
Yeah.
Hi, I had a quick question. You guys talked about commercial banking internships. That's something that actually kind of really interests me. I was wanting to know, is there a way to find out more about that on the BOK website, about more in-depth details about what goes on with that?
Yeah, you'll definitely find some information on our website about our different areas of commercial banking. But I'm happy to set up a conversation with you and talk about, you know, what to expect from our internship, some of the types of projects that you can expect to work on, the networking opportunities and things like that.
I just
Sounds
posted
great.
our job site in the chat. That way you can go take a look there. I would also encourage you, if you haven't connected with Aaron or myself on LinkedIn, go ahead and do that. We've actually had almost all of our interns have organically posted about their summer and what they've worked on. And so if you go in and talk to some of the interns on there, even message them, you might get a really good aspect of it. But Garrett, a lot of what the internship is, especially in the commercial side, is really focused on financial spreading and understanding what a loan could look like. If you think about some of our higher loans, it's over 150 million easily in a lot of these in company size. And so it's underwriting and looking at the credit for pretty big big deals, but even more than that, we've got the commercial banking side that also does really small business loans, local business loans, where you know the owner and exactly what's going on down the street. You might be a local yourself going into a coffee shop or something along those lines, and we do deals for them too. So it's understanding how to analyze a company to know basically, are they going to pay you back or not in a 15-year term or a 5-year term for commercial real estate. And so it's a fun puzzle guessing game hat you get to put on to decide, does this make sense for our organization? Great question.
And we have another one in the chat. In your opinion, what sets BOK apart from their peers in the industry regarding your own experiences?
Yeah, you bet. Aaron, if you want to go first, I am biased because I've only worked here. So I'm going to put my bias hat on. Aaron has worked other places, so I think you can give some insight there, but just know mine will be coming from the BOKF Kool-Aid stand, basically.
She's at least honest, guys. I would say the culture, and that's, for me, it's an easy answer. The culture at BOK is like something I haven't really experienced otherwise. I would say the closest thing is being on a football team. Only no one's yelling at you. It just is so empowering, collaborative. I can't say that enough, and I don't think that word does it justice. Everyone is really rooting for one another. We help each other out. Right now, I've been talking with one of our business development officers for institutional wealth up in the Kansas City office because she's talking with colleges. And so we're really working together to help her do business with these colleges. And also she's telling them about our program and really the opportunities that we can bring as an employer to these smaller universities, which will really help them attract students. And so this is just an example of something that just happened so organically. But we were both so willing and fired up to kind of help each other out. And now we've been sharing colleges with each other. And that's just who we are. We're a team and a family, and we take care of each other when the other needs something. If we need to be out, I don't have any question that my teammates can handle everything and vice versa. We really pride ourselves on that. And I think that's something that we really scrutinize on the front end to make sure that people are going to be keepers of our culture, and that's a focus for them.
Yeah, that's great. We had one of our summer interns post on LinkedIn, I think sums up that pretty well as well. He said, I used to think that the term company culture was gimmicky. And then I experienced a summer where it truly rang true and became a company that I wanted to work for and show up every day because I liked the people I worked with and wanted to do a good job for them. And I think exactly what Aaron's saying, we've, in an 8-week time frame, some of our interns have felt that, which really helps us remember and get a chance to explore why we do what we do. One of the things, kind of outside of company culture and getting to work with Aaron and my other teammates every day is really focused on the entrepreneurial opportunities that you have at such a large organization. So we're 5,000, almost 6,000 employees. We're Bank of Oklahoma here, but BOK Financial spans across the Midwest and Southwest region. So we're Bank of Texas down in Texas. We're in Arizona, Colorado, Kansas City, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, kind of all in that area. And so we're a big institution. And one of the things that I found very quickly is that if you're able to find an idea and really understand it and delve in to how it could work and put together, a summary to get something done, you can run with it. And I find that to be very seldom at large institutions, that someone as much as an intern or an associate can have an idea and it be a true implementation that we put into play. One of the areas I like to focus on is our Battle of the Intern projects. And so in previous years, We've done very specific projects around prospecting or the next generation of wealth or a new way to implement a certain technology. And 2 years ago, one of our intern teams worked on what they call the universal view of the client, which is basically a Google system for the bank to type in a client's name and look at the accounts and who does what for them, because we never had that interaction before. And that was something that our interns really spearheaded and came up with. And now it's a full-fledged program at the organization. And so when you think about, I don't know what impact I can make, I know it holds true to both Aaron and I's careers, but even more than that, even as much as just your first internship, it will impact the company in a way that you can't always explain. So sometimes that means that we hire people that will put in a few more hours, and sometimes we'll have and maybe go to that idea guy a little more than not. But I'll tell you, we will take a person with ideas and opinions over a number or a 10 key employee any day. And that's what really impresses me about the organization. Steve, we will send some good thoughts and vibes your way. Absolutely. Good luck on that interview.
Thank you.
You bet. Anyone else have questions?
Well, as we wait for more questions to come in, I want to thank you both for presenting today, and we'll definitely, I think you have an email from me about the fall, our plans for the fall, so we'd love to have you back in the fall. It'll be via Zoom, social distancing and all that, but definitely we'd love to have you back. And I can just attest to when I send students Aaron's way or Macy's way, I always hear back, they met us for coffee. So don't be afraid to reach out and connect with them to talk more about BOK Financial and the opportunities. And I will say, because we have, I think he's still on, a Master of Science in Business Analytics student. So our master's program in analytics. I love the analytics program that you all have. That's great. That's wonderful for our students. So thank you so much for that. And I've heard from all our interns that were there this summer, and they had a great time. So, so thank you for that. Are there any other questions? All righty. Well, thank you again. Great presentation. Really appreciated it. And we look forward to seeing you virtually on campus. Trying to figure out the right way to say that, in the fall.
Window again is basically how. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.